This is an early photograph of the Hill Top Stores. I would think it was in the 1930s, probably not long after it was built. The owner at the time, from the name above the shop, is H.J. Kingsnorth. You can just make out his name here. And it shows that it was confectionery and tobacco, not a general store as it became later. The building has changed from what it is now. On the right you will see that there is a front door which has been removed, and in later photographs you will see that there is a window there. There's a young lady standing in front, and this sign says Craven A cigarettes, and it used to say Craven A and never vary. When I look at old photographs, I look in the windows, and here you will see someone peering out. You nearly always see a face in the window, and this is a young lady. Now over here on the left, this intrigues me. It looks like a Wall's ice cream bicycle, but it doesn't have walls on it. Although it's laid out very much the same with prices of ice creams here, it's a bit indistinct, but I think it might say Charing Dairy. I could be wrong, but many of the dairies in those days used to make their own ice creams. And of course on the wall, just here, on the door of the garage actually, is the metal sign Lyons Cakes.
We came to Charing to live on the hill in 1959, and we took over the little shop called Hill Top Stores. Why did we come to Charing? Well, Gerald used to work in the City of London. Now, how many of you can remember the Lewisham train crash? It was a horrible foggy night, about 5 o'clock in the evening, and two trains collided at Lewisham. And while they were doing it, they managed to damage the bridge that came over the top, and then out came a train from Holborn, in which Gerald was trying to get home, and the first two carriages went down on the top of the ones already smashed to pieces down below. Well, he eventually got home, and he was definitely traumatised. For a long while he had nightmares, and I think he was dreading getting another job where he got to commute to London. And all of a sudden one day he came home and dumped a large batch of agents' particulars, all for little shops in Kent. And he said, I think we're going to go out into the country and I want a little shop. So that's why we came to Charing. And then once here, we stayed 20 years, and it was a most exciting life in a way. We had lots of lovely customers, lots of difficult customers, and some very amusing episodes. This is the shop when we bought it. It was quite a lovely little building, and nice and roomy with a big warehouse at the back. But the thing that impressed me were those beautiful windows. If you can look at them, each one of those little square panes was beautiful beveled glass surrounded in very delicately carved woodwork. The front door of the shop there was even more heavily decorated with wood, with swirls of grapes and things, utterly unsuitable for a grocer's shop really, but it was a beautiful door. Now this is another interesting thing. Where did this beautiful beveled glass come from? It came from the Wembley exhibition. Most of the older properties on the top of Charing Hill were built by a man called Timpson, who got his supplies apparently from the 1926 Wembley exhibition. And both this doorway and the bay-fronted windows came from the Wembley exhibition. We were told that. We didn't know whether to take it with a pinch of salt, but when the ceiling fell down and we discovered it was stamped on the back, Wembley Exhibition, 1926, we thought perhaps that's indeed where it came from. You notice all the various trade signs all over. There's a lovely one here, and walls up there, and various other ones, and including a telephone box. Well, that was a chore, because the post office people said that because we would benefit from customers coming in using the telephone, we would have to clean it, and they provided us with foul-smelling disinfectant and some terrible old rags and said, here you are, and you can have 2 and 6 a week for doing it. We had it for rather a long while, because after all it did bring in passing trade. But eventually that has moved, and it's also the post box, which is here, was moved over to the other side of the road.
This picture of the hilltop stores I blew up from a little tiny one, about 2 inches square. The centre is reasonably in focus, but the outer edges are a little bit out of focus. But what caught my eye was this structure here, a little indistinct, but I recognised it immediately. In the days before the Town and Country Act, when all these signs had to be removed, this was a Lions Countryside sign. It was a tall oak post with a yellow sign, Lions Cakes, and all wrought iron around the outside. Very pretty and quite expensive, but these were outside little village shops all over the country. Then they all had to be taken down in the Town and Country Planning Act, unfortunately, but it brought memories back to me. Players Please and Walls Ice Cream. All shops, especially if they had a wall like this, were plastered with these large metal signs. I used to get 1 and 6pence for putting up a flange sign similar to this one on the outside of a shop saying Lions Cakes, 1 and 6pence. And you've heard Pat tell you about the lovely windows and the door, the ornate door, which came from the 1926 Wembley exhibition. Ralph Blake has already told me that many of the houses along the hill that were built by Timpson had lots of pieces that were sold off from the exhibition, and that they were integrated into the houses. And some ceilings were actually made from water tanks that were split down and hammered out level and used as ceiling panels. When Chula Took was talking to me about the Clockhouse School and her friend who had lovely red hair, she said the Italian prisoners used to sit at the top of the hill, and I wondered whether they sat in this chair. No doubt they did. And when her friend went past with Chula, they used to say "Bella, Bella," and make her friend very embarrassed. And I heard that unfortunately this lady, or lady as she is or was, Susan Swindale, died earlier this year, 2003.
The time came when that beautiful glass was beginning to fall out. The woodwork all around was rotting. After all, it was 1926 and hadn't been apparently done much with since. We had to have a new shop front. By then we'd amalgamated or joined the Spar group of shops. They helped us to modernise the shop front, which was better perhaps from a business point of view, but it wasn't nearly so nice as my lovely rounded quality street windows. And some very amusing episodes, including one where an old lady came in with a large pair of pink stays. If any of you remember what pink stays were, they were enormous sort of corsets with laces and suspenders and things all over them. And she dumped it on the grocery counter and she said, "I want you to wash these for me." Well, Gerald's face was a study and he yelled out for me, "Can you come and deal with this?" So I had to march the old lady home and explain that really we didn't wash corsets, we sold groceries.